You are still muted. Nathan, you are still muted.
There. I have
what a professional intro.
I have two ways of muting, right? I have the button on my actual mic, which I've increasingly been doing because it's just right there and it's so easy to do. And I've got the mute button on this platform. And of course, just then I chose the wrong one. Do you know what I was saying whilst I was muted?
We have no idea.
I'm such an amateur. They were exactly the words that were coming out of my mouth. So yeah, anyway, destiny fulfilled. WP Build's weekly WordPress news. You can see that I'm joined today by Bernhard Gronau over there. He can tell you about himself in a minute. Paul Lacey down there. His head is uncomfortably close to my chest. And Michelle Frechette, who is down there. So we'll go round robin very quickly. But before we do that, let me just do what we're all about. We're doing this. No, we're not. We're doing that. Weekly WordPress news. You know, basically everything that happened since this time last week to now, more or less. If you would like to put some comments, I'd really appreciate that. And the best place to do that is either over at wpbuilds.com/live. That's Google Comments because it's done via YouTube. Or you can go wpbuilds.com/Facebook. That takes you to our Facebook group. But also now, because StreamYard's allowing me one more destination, you can go to facebook.com/WPBuilds, and that's the public page. So you can put your comments in there as well, which is just something else. Very, very nice. Right. Okay. First of all, then, let's go for Bernhard. Bernhard, say hello in case anybody's not met you before. Who are you? Where are you from? And so on.
Well, hello from Austria. I'm helping out with support and a little bit of development with pods and building a Beaver Builder add-on for it. And I have my own small company doing a little bit of WordPress development, mainly using pods and dealing with stuff like structured data and more complex type of sites and not just the easy cheesy block as you like.
Easy cheesy, I like it. The easy cheesy block. Okay, thank you very much, Bernhard. And down there is Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hello. So Paul Lacey here from the Dicky Bird Studio. We're a WordPress agency in the UK.
Thank you very much. And Michelle, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me today. Michelle Frechette from GiveWP. I also have another side job for Sentry Hosting. And other than that, I'm kind of all in with WordPress.
Thank you so much. Right. Okay, let's get stuck into it then, shall we? Let's not waste any time. Let me just see if I can get that to go on. There we go. Great. So just very briefly, I'll go through what we are and what we do and all that kind of stuff. So WP Builds, we produce content each and every week, podcasts on a Thursday, this thing on a Monday. But prior to releasing this, I released like a 30-minute version. It's just me talking. It's dreadful. But anyway, that's what this is based upon. I would highly discourage you from listening to it because it's utter waffle. But anyway, that's what this is based upon. So that's what we produce, lots of content. If you want to listen to me droning on about WordPress, fill out this form. Again, I would urge you not to do it. Really, stay away from that one. This one, however, it has some utility because this will I will tell you when I found a WordPress deal. So, you know, a coupon code pops up and I'll tell you about it. There's the ways to listen to us on your podcast player of choice, usually held on your phone, and our Facebook group. It's worth being in the Facebook group because it's not just me droning on. It's lots of lovely WordPressers, 2,700 nearly of us now. And I'm highlighting this because I only just added one. I added one this morning. This is a deal for Weglot. Weglot have decided to give us 15% off the lifetime of your account if you use this coupon code just here. But this is the WP Builds deals page. You can find it here. It's just a list of filterable, searchable things with cash off. What else? Nobody's filled out this form yet, but if you've got a job, if you know about a job, go to this thing here, post a job, and I'll list them for free on our website, but nobody's doing that yet. And then this is the news archive. Look at the little cute little owls. Oh, little owls. And that's this is the news that we're going to be talking about today, and it's here. We always do WordPress Core to begin with, and there's actually a pretty cool bit of WordPress Core news. And before we get into this, I should say, Bernhard and Michelle, it's probably time to fit your boxing gloves at this point, because this could go in all sorts of interesting directions. It is to say that WordPress 5.5 was obviously shipped. Feels like minutes ago that happened, but obviously now we're already talking about WordPress 5.6. And over on WP Tavern, somehow hasn't quite loaded correctly, has it? Over on WP Tavern, ooh, maybe the image CDN has gone down. Oh, I've got a rubbish internet connection. Anyway, Sarah Gooding. Right, no, there you go. Sarah Gooding writing about the fact that WordPress 5.6 has kicked off. It's being led by Josepha Hayden, who's mentioned here, as well as Tanya Mork. I'm gonna forgive me if I mash these names up. Helen Husandi, Isabel Brisson, and Ellen Bauer, Tammy Lister, and a whole bunch of other women, because that's the bit of news here, right? The whole entire squad is made up of people who identify by women. Now, lest I drone on, I'm going to hand it straight over to Michelle. What's all this about, and why are you involved?
Yes, well, as I've said many times in many places, I am not a developer. But one of the beautiful things about working on Core is that you don't have to be a developer to contribute. There is much more that goes into it, including documentation, marketing, and all the things I'm not thinking of in my morning hours this morning. But I am on the marketing team, and we are led by Yvette Sonneveld. So if you know Yvette, you know that we're in good hands as far as the marketing team for sure. But it's a beautiful thing. There are so many women over so much time, not only in technology itself, but in WordPress, even though we think of ourselves as very open, very encompassing, and very open to ideas and things like that, we still have women who want to contribute and don't feel like they have a place at the table. And as Michelle Butcher-Jones put it, it's not too hard to move over and let some people sit at the table with you. But unfortunately, it doesn't feel that welcoming when you're talking about working on Core. And so this has given women who are perfectly capable and perfectly skilled to contribute a way to do that, and an entry into being part of the core development of WordPress. And so that's kind of where it's going. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because this piece here, it may have been a different piece. I apologize, but I'm just going to go straight to the comments. Okay, so here we go. Here's how the debate got kicked off on WP Tavern. So 26 comments, and you can imagine the way this goes. So a chap called Peter Shaw, who I don't know, immediately responded with this comment. He says, "It is concerning that woke tokenism is now lauded as a good thing. The only criteria should be who is best for the role." And that's kind of, for me, sadly, where the debate sort of hinged for a little while. Some people sort of saying, well, we just want the best people for the job, regardless, it doesn't matter who they are, whether they're men, women, or a biscuit, frankly, just so long as it's the best thing. It could even be AI. But I just kind of felt that was kind of missing the target a little bit, because the idea of this, as far as I can see, isn't that, well, nobody's trying to sort of, put anybody's noses out of joint. But the fact is, we've got quite a few millennia under our belts now of women not really getting a fair crack of the whip. And It just felt like, well, something's got to be done. And why not this? It just seemed like a smashing idea. So I'm going to give it back to Michelle, if you don't mind. What's your take on comments like Peter's comment, which you can see on the screen there?
Well, Peter's been very outspoken, not only on the Tavern, but also on several groups that I'm in, including Advanced WordPress Group in Facebook, and on Twitter, of course. And Peter falls to the extreme far right. So Peter is as far right as perhaps I am far left. And so I don't think we'll ever actually agree with one another. However, when somebody approaches this by saying something along the lines of, we want the best that can be, number one, assuming that can't be all women, number one, falls short, because the best that can be all women. Women can do anything that men can do, and women are absolutely equally to the task as men for certain. The second thing is, if you want to approach it from a point of meritocracy, then you have to actually make it so that there's no gender awareness, no ethnicity awareness, etc., when you're going to approach that meritocracy. So if this was a completely blind opportunity for people to contribute, and the selection process had no way of knowing who it was, and there's actually no way to do that. So if I were to submit a resume, and my resume says head of customer success at GiveWP, you're going to know automatically by a quick search, if you don't already know who that is, I am the only person who's ever held that job. It must be me. It has to be me. And so there is no way to absolutely make a clear meritocracy playing field. The fact that women have been oppressed for so long, not only in technology, but specifically in technology, as we're talking about this, means that it's harder for us to want to even approach that table and say, can you scoot over and give me a place? Because so often we get beat back and beat down, and there's and assumed that we know less and that we are less capable of men, because somebody in one of the comments even said that women don't have as analytic a brain as men do. And while that may be true for some women and some men, it certainly is not a blanket statement that rings true. It can possibly be.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, hang on. I want Michelle. Bernhard, hold on, because I really want Michelle to be given the full gamut of time. So
it's okay, Bernhard. We'll still be friends after this, I promise. But one of my comments is that, number one, this is an open source project. It's not that because it's all women, suddenly we're going to be working in secret and nobody's going to get to see what happens until December 8th. It clearly is still open source. It happens out in the public. It happens openly. If any release, even including Gutenberg, has been highly watched and highly criticized, it will be this one. The opportunity for us to fail is so low because of the hyper focus that the entire community, specifically the right-wing men, will have on this project, makes failure practically impossible. And yes, I'm using the phrase that Susan B. Anthony used 100 years ago when she helped get the right to vote, which was actually 100 years ago this month in the United States, that failure was impossible. And I say the same is true for this. Failure will be impossible because nobody's going to let us fail, because they're going to be watching and hoping it happens, and it's just not going to be possible.
Thank you. That was nicely said. I have to say that before I hand it over to Bernhard or Paul or whoever wants to take it on, when I heard this, like, there was literally no part of me which was like, the only bit of me was like, oh, that's really an interesting idea. Why not? That's where I'm at with it. Like, just why not? Why not try this out? And so Peter Shaw and your followers obviously will probably come and want to pound me for that. But Bernhard, I know that you have a different opinion. Maybe it's
no. Wait, just a second. I had a general discussion about the issue above it. I think it's great because it raises awareness. I love that we have a discussion about it. If it's a great idea or not, is a great thing, because it's important to think about it, to think about our own internal things, why we think women are not, or why we think a black man is not, or whatever. All our internal, how do we call it, Vorteile,
biases.
English. Yeah, our own biases, because it's important to think about them, to talk about them. I understand that it can raise issues like, okay, like you said, can we even craft a theme of the best? Because who is the best? Who decides who is the best? Alone, this decision is biased because we do it based on perception in the open. Perhaps somebody isn't as likes to talk or be visible, but does a great job. The only issue I raised was about we shouldn't over-emphasize it, or like I was about equal chances and not equal whatever. So quotes and all women, all men, what's the next thing? All black, all I don't know, because it's not only about women or men or whatever. There are so many different people out there with different backgrounds, with different things. I don't know. So it's great, but I had more a general discussion with Michelle about the underlying issue or the wider spectrum. I want to correct that because Nathan comments sounded a bit like I'm against it. And
you're not.
Yeah, sorry. That came out wrong.
That's not my style. I mean,
no.
What something other people forget is this is not the last time that WordPress will ever be developed. 5.6 is not where WordPress ends. So if you are a man and you want to be involved, 5.7 is just around the corner. So there's plenty of opportunity to continue to be involved. Absolutely.
Yeah. Paul, any thoughts on this? Or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably make no sense whatsoever. But it's a shame that the first comment was like a trigger comment. Like the first comment on there was a comment that was someone triggered by the art, by the concept, and then it triggered loads of responses because it doesn't get us very far. You know, it just looks like Twitter basically with American politics in that thread at the moment. You could just change what the article is about to something else, and it would be the same. But I don't even like see this as like a woke thing anyway. Like I'm not a big fan of like when companies like big corporations try and say things to appear woke or whatever, to try not to get their houses burned down or whatever, you know, their buildings burnt down. But this to me isn't even that. This is just an internal community aware that there are people within its community that are not as included as they should be. And that could include other types of people, like shy people. So you could, you know, and the WordPress community has done things in WordCamps to say, you know, if you're a shy person, come to a WordCamp and put your name down on this list and we will assign you a friend, sort of thing, that you can come and someone will show you around. So I don't even think this is like, because Peter Shaw says it's like a tokenistic thing. I don't think it's really tokenistic. I think it's like and I do think a lot of other things in society are tokenistic, and you could look at them and say they are. But, you know, if someone takes over a new pub in the UK, and they want to change it from, you know, a bunch of ruffians coming in all the time to a more family pub, they will do something to change the menu or change the layout of the place just to make it have a more wider appeal to lots of different people. And even in the actual plan for this release, it says here, I'm not sure who said this, possibly Josepha Hayden, said, so this doesn't sound to me tokenistic. My hope is that with release squad comprised entirely of women who identify as women, we'll be able to increase the number of women who have that experience and hopefully become returning contributors to Core and elsewhere. It also says this doesn't mean the release will only contain contributions from women. So if you're not even excluded if you're a man in this particular release anyway. You can still completely get involved in all sorts of ways. So, you know, I don't see it as something that should be triggered by someone, even if you're on the right in this case. But I can understand why people on the right would feel triggered, because they, in the same way people on the left can get triggered by one thing, people on the right get triggered when people try to use wokeness to shut them down. So it's just last week, you know, when we were talking about Astra, and, you know, there's this side and then the truth is in the middle. Like this sort of debate, just not this debate we're having, but, you know, turning it into a massive political thing instead of just like, there is some political things, because 100% women have not been as involved in tech. And even though the opportunities are more or less probably much more equal than they ever were now, there's still decades of history that set the foundation. That means that right now, even if you said the rules right now are exactly equal to everyone, there is years and years before that meant that these dudes were involved at the beginning and these other people weren't. So I think it's a good example of something like this, but I just think it's a cool idea. That's about as far as it is. And it's a community going, let's do something cool. And it's absolutely fine. You know, I don't know if I even made my point there, but it was just how
I appreciate it. When I was a child, I'm a 51-year-old woman living in the United States, so let's preface it with that. But when I was a child, nobody said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? What they said to girls my age was, do you want to be a mommy, a nurse, or a teacher? we were given 3 options. The idea of working outside of that or thinking outside of that box was so foreign to a young girl like me in the 70s, that for me to be a 51-year-old woman contributing to something like WordPress Core release is phenomenal. I had dinner with my father Friday night. My father is right-wing conservative. And so thinking he would fall more on the lines of, wow, I'm so proud of you, I said, guess what, Dad? There's this all-women release squad and I'm on it. And the first thing he said was, well, that's pretty bigoted, isn't it? And I said, no. And let me tell you why. And I had a conversation with him that at the end, I knew he wasn't going to agree with me. So I just shut up, put my rainbow mask back on and went home. But
it's an the bit that I picked up on from what Paul was saying was the sort of the history of it all. And I think that's exactly the play here, right? It's about trying to demonstrate, especially like imagine younger people. Let's just think children for the sake of argument. Imagine if somehow they got wind that this was happening. I know it's a small chance, but you take my point, that they hear that there's this thing and that they've made a bit of a special effort on this one occasion to promote the role of women to something a little bit unique and to emphasize it and to publicize it and to really go to extraordinary lengths and suffer the backlash that we're hearing, just to redress the balance a little bit, to upset those decades of the way it's always been. And I think that's great. Maybe somebody will listen to this and think, oh, that sounds like a thing I want to be involved in because I'm a female and I would like to be a part of that in the future, and I've got a fighting chance by the sounds of it. The other thing I always think about these kind of things is it's so ridiculously easy for people like me to sort of debate it and come. Oh, excuse me, Peter, I'm going to put myself in your shoes, but I have no idea what size shoe you wear. But you get the point. It's easy to sort of say, well, we just want the best candidate. Well, yeah, I'm sure we do. But in society, we want a whole lot more than just the best people rising to the top. We want people to have chances to rise to the top. And we want people to be aware that they're welcome to try to rise to the top. And also we just want people who are just willing. And honestly, this project relies upon willingness as much as talent, if you know what I mean. I want to suck that sentence back into my mouth. I don't mean that. What I mean is it's volunteers, right? And so we're not going through the same process of hiring somebody and pushing them through an interview process. We need as many people in this project as we can. And I just think, what's the harm in redressing the balance? What possible harm can it do? And so what if it's tokenism, frankly, for this release? Let's just let it happen, pick it up at the other side. And like Michelle said, those people who wish to be in 5.7, yeah, it'll be a good one, I'm sure.
Do it.
Yeah, there's also as well, I don't know if, Nathan, you've listened to the latest Sam Harris podcast. I know me and you are fans.
I've listened to about half of
Sam
it.
Harris.
Yeah.
So there was some good points in that episode with David
Miliband, yeah.
Yeah, isn't it? Interview with David Miliband. And they were talking about, so when people talk about the best people for the job, I think it was this episode anyway, does that mean the best academically? Or, we recently had someone in our family pass away and they didn't do anything good with a career at all. But the eulogy was wonderful about how much of a great person they were and how many different people they've helped. So it's, it's like, does the best person for the job mean that they're the best developer or they got the best project management? There's so much rich contribution from different angles that I don't think on a community project like WordPress, you can even say that this is like rocket science, where the best people for the job are clearly the most qualified rocket scientists.
Yeah, yeah.
There's all sorts of ways that this is, just like Michelle said, that, she's not a developer and doesn't claim to be, but she's contributing to the project in possibly an angle that hasn't even been contributed to before. If it is the case that there was the more male-based was a more techie approach, and that bringing in literally a different mix of people, which doesn't matter if it's women or men, it's just a new mix of people. It's a new dynamic. It's a shift up. It's mixing things up a little bit. It's going to bring in new skills. So even if you went, okay, let's just have forget about whether it's men or women on this next release. We're just bringing in an entirely new team. We're going to have some people shadowing so that they know how it all kind of works, but we're going to bring in a completely new team of people to manage this. You would have another similar effect, that you'd have some new cool approaches, some new blood sort of thing. And that's just awesome. That it's just going to be new blood on the project, because
I think
let's hope they don't spill blood
on the project. You're fighting. No, I mean, it just
leads back to what I said in the start. It's about diversity, and now it's women, and I hope that they take it as a start to I don't know, try things out, or try give people a chance, because the project lead itself, it isn't about the programming stuff. I mean, some of it, yes, but many of the other things are just organizational. So like who does what happens, and why it happens, and which feature gets added and which not, and which track tickets get dealt with. So that's everything is just coding. It's more than that. And so I think it's a great thing, but I understand that there are people who have a different point of view, and that's another thing which I feel it's sad in my eyes, because we are allowed to have different point of views for things, because nobody of us knows the truth, what's really right. I mean, there are so many gray areas in all of life, and I would wish that it's more an open discussion. Why is it a good idea, or why it isn't? Because there are arguments for both sides, and we don't need to agree in the end, just to respect the decision of the other side. And that's missing, not only in WordPress, but in the whole of the world, and all the discussions, and especially more for the American people currently, I think. But it's an issue, and that applies to all of it, gender, race, whatever, countries, because I think there is in WordPress, there's for sure not only a gender issue, but I think many contributors might be more from the Western Hemisphere. I'm not sure; I didn't check the numbers, but I'm quite sure that it's like that. So it's interesting for many areas, not only women.
I two things. First one, I think you've got to, what is it? Cakes and breaking eggs, something like that. And the other one is there are a lot of grey areas in life, and this is one of them. Right, let's move on that bombshell. So first of all, I did put this comment up earlier, but we can draw attention to it properly now. I think it's a great way to showcase the awesome women we have in WordPress. Thank you very much, Cameron and Chris. Wonder how many of those men will skip 5.6 to wait for 5.7. Honestly, if that's true, it's naughty. We need you now. Right, okay, let's move on. Let's do this one. This is an advert. This is Search Engine Journal. Just very, very, very quickly, won't go into this a lot. Apparently, I had smooth sailing. I had pretty much plain sailing when I updated to WordPress. Oh, I should put the article up. Sorry, there you go. I should say that Search Engine Journal, they were on about the fact that a few sites broke when 5.5 came along, and it was largely to do with jQuery migrate. There was something else as well, but I don't think I'll dwell on it. My experience was pretty painless. I've now updated, I think, 90% of everything I've got, and no problems. But if you are,
I had one white screen. Yeah, one white screen, and it was a WP Rocket issue, and they issued a patch very quickly, and everything's all set.
Great. Oh, okay. Was that specific to, like, did everybody on WP Rocket, do you know, get that? Or
I don't know.
A weirdy combination of something that you had going on?
I don't know. It was my church's website, and I quickly sent a message on to Century Hosting, and they fixed it very quickly. So
okay, yeah, that's the best kind of support you can get. Anyway, a few little problems, but not that many. Oh, crikey, more stuff. Look at that. Right, community stuff very quickly. Kinster put this article together about, I quite like this one. This is the fastest WordPress themes. They're the usual contenders, but I do kind of like to nerd out a little bit sometimes on these articles, and it goes into how they measured them, and it's, you know, Pingdom, GT metrics, and a whole bunch of other things, bike check, and you can see it. And look at that, that did surprise me that Hello Elementor came out on top, which was quite interesting. I say on top. I mean, there's nothing in it really.
It would do that because exactly, there's nothing in it.
Yeah, there really is. There really is nothing in it. It was, all of these will do really well. And then it was I confess I don't know Neve by Theme Isle, but that got an honourable mention, as did I know we talked about Astra a lot last week, and Paul I know is a big Generate Press fan. In fact, look at that website, Paul. Look at that. It's quite a nice website.
Really nice.
Do you like that? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I know in the UK, yeah, some fella. Anyway, nice website, Paul. And page builder framework from our friend David von Greece. But it's just technical details as to why they were successful in the speed test.
Thing is, this sort of article is definitely for nerds, because it's kind of similar to an article saying what underwear should you wear to look really great at the ball. Right?
Can I just point out that there is a whole ocean of difference between this article and the underwear article that you've got?
No, it's exactly the same. It's exactly
not if you're women, especially for women. The undergarments make the whole look.
True. This is there is some exceptions for the men on those sort of things as well. There's some special underwear available these days that does certain things.
I could see a really niche article: best underwear for WordPress developers to wear in order to create fast WordPress themes.
But let's say you go to a black tie ball, right? You go to a black tie ball, and it doesn't really matter. No one's going to see your underwear, and this is like the same sort of thing here.
Get it. Okay.
So you've got to remember how my brain works, Nathan.
Yeah.
My brain is
going back to the article before we land somewhere elsewhere, whatever. It's interesting because how did they choose the themes? Are themes that might be faster, and how did you test it? I mean, Kinsta is great. They have really thorough articles and stuff like that. But I mean, a plain landing page, I don't know. It's more than that, like Paul said. And there are for sure teams which might be as fast as them or even faster that are not mentioned, because come on, 10 themes out of, I don't know, 11 out of, I don't know how many they tried to include. So it's and like it's mentioned in the comments, there are themes which are a little bit going through Facebook, through people who promote them. I don't know if they're better or not, but it doesn't stop there, and it's more about than speed. And you can easily make any of those themes by adding just big images very slow. It's not the theme itself; it's the whole website afterwards.
My problem forever going forwards is I'm now going to equate themes with underwear, and Paul jeopardised.
I think that's Ben Layer WP's fault. I'm sure he did an article.
Yeah.
And there was like an underwear theme in there.
Yes, that was right. Yeah. We mentioned we had him on, didn't we? And we went through some of that stuff that he put together. Anyway, let's move on.
You're going to end up having those like go commando versus wear underwear people come out of the woodwork as well. So
I so didn't anticipate this conversation when we started. 34
well, that's really happened.
Here we are. This is where we've got to. Let's move on.
Heinrich has spoken about Oxygen Builder. So when you use Oxygen, you barely don't use a theme at all. It takes over entirely.
So that's right. You don't need. It's like if you use Beaver theme or stuff like that. The theme is just depending on whatever you need. It's like the tiniest part of it, like for the basics. And I didn't talk about Oxygen. It was another one, but which I don't use and don't promote. But it seems sometimes themes get overrated because it's important for the starters for sure. But once you get a little bit more into the development, many themes kind of fit the bill, especially if you use any kind of builder. Most of the theme doesn't do much anymore. It depends.
I'm going to move it on. And I think, Heinrich, we do not need a theme. Is what I thought you meant.
Yeah, but then you break other things. That's another minefield we don't want to start now. What's Oxygen?
No, my brain is still really underwear fiasco, underwear gate, as I'm now going to call it.
So but Oxygen is no underwear for you?
No,
exactly.
My head is not coping with any of this. Can we?
I think Nathan's trying to move on to this article, isn't he? Which is
trying to
bringing
move
it back.
I've got nothing else to say now. I'm done. Thank you for joining us on the WordPress documentation team discusses modifying external links policy following opposition ban on the use of commercial links. We seem to be having WP drama. It seems like there's quite a few little WP dramas going on at the moment, and this is one of them. So if you want to put documentation into help hub, code reference, plugin and theme developer documents, and so on, there's and the block editor handbook and so on and so forth. The idea is that you must not link out to anywhere with commercial links, and the controversy is what even is that? At what point in that website that you've linked to, how obvious does it need to be that it's commercial? So if you link to a page where there's just absolutely no commercial intent and it clearly is some helpful thing, is that okay? Or if you could then click off that page onto a different part of their website and they're offering premium services, is that okay? Or is that anyway? So more controversy, and so they got to the point where they decided just to sort of like forget about all of this. They were going to pull all these commercial links, and then they realized we can't. So much of the internet has got commercial links. So now they've just sort of walked that back, and they've got a Google document up and running. And I think they had a meeting, might have even been on Friday, to sort of propose what we do about this. To me, most of the internet is fairly commercial. I think if you're linking to a piece that has like value, that's okay, right? Do we need to be this draconian? Anything commercial?
It's a minefield again.
WP drama. I'm going to call this podcast that now. It's going to be called the WP Drama Show.
Is it a drama? I mean, imagine people start to kind of, I mean, it's a good thing on the one hand to kind of battle each other for more links or better links or whatever.
It's you're trying to stop something from happening, right? As opposed to, if you're linking to a page which has got like a tiny reference to something commercial, but 98% of it, Bernhard has gone sideways. But most of it's fine. I can see that's fine. But the problem is if you open the floodgates and anybody can link from the official WordPress documentation out to their blatantly, full-on landing page, not fine. So where do you draw the line? And the problem is nobody knows, and I don't suppose they will know ever. But anyway, this was the latest WP drama from this week. Has anybody got anything to add? Because we're short on time, I might just move it forwards.
Briefly. Okay.
Briefs.
Yeah, no, I didn't even mean that like that, but it just popped into my head too as soon as I said it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think this is slightly annoying to me, this article. Not the article isn't, but the situation is kind of annoying. But I wouldn't want WordPress.org to be stretching their influence outside of their core environment. So, if they've got it's the same way that governments have got a role and shouldn't stretch too far into society, where they're becoming more kind of setting rules based on what they think, based on their idea. So I don't know if I'm saying the right thing here, but I just feel like Matt Medeiros was on last week, and these, let's say it's Give, right, and that you go to the Give documentation, and that the Give documentation is genuinely saying, do you know what? Here's the documentation. By the way, there's a better way to do this thing that you're trying to do with the premium version. This will help you solve your problem easier. And obviously, there's going to be some situations where people try and twist it. Some companies are going to try and twist it and manipulate people. And I think the rules should be based on community response. That if, for instance, you could have something like there's a ability to report a link for being manipulative, or those kind of things. And if enough people report something, then it gets investigated, and it gets seen to see if it is appropriate. and a link could be removed on that basis. But just saying ban commercial links is just it's just too wide and doesn't help the wider community and doesn't help the user, because look, most of the highly functional plugins that we've got have got premium versions because that's how they exist. So what are we going to do? We can't just stop them from making money in every possible way. We had the Astra thing the other week, and there was some, there was actually a way that could have been done in a different way that wasn't breaking any rules. But this is kind of like another stamp down to say, make sure that anyone involved with this whole project has a really difficult time to make any money. And I think that's just stupid.
Did you pick up on because I didn't have a chance to put it in this week's news because it happened after I'd recorded it. Did you pick up on the sublime synchronicity whereby WordPress's iOS app was going to be pulled because it didn't have a commercial angle? There was no way to monetize it. So Apple reached out to, well, I guess Matt became the conduit for that conversation, but Matt Mullenweg was forced to create the option to sort of give Apple 30% of basically non-existent revenue. And then,
but the issue was
and then
that at some point there was at least one link or some link to their commercial offering. So it was not about, it was about if you link to a commercial version from the App Store, you have to have an option to make it in the app itself.
Apparently, you had to try really hard to find that link. That's what I read. It wasn't like there's a link. It was buried in a menu inside a other menu inside a post. Or anyway, so they put, apparently, I could be wrong, they put this in to the iOS app. They built the structure, I guess, to pay Apple 30% of basically nothing, and then Apple backed down and said, "No, you don't need to bother." So thanks, Apple. But I mean, how interesting is that? Bearing in mind what we're talking about, because WordPress clearly, if you go on the iOS app, there is a way to find the commercial WordPress.com stuff, albeit very hard. Anyway, just an interesting aside. But I'm with you, Paul. Yeah, it's a bit annoying.
I agree with Paul, or maybe there should be a way of more visible view who's contributing. I don't know. I mean, there are several ways to approach stuff like that. So, because like in the,
I was just sorry. I was just interrupting. We've all been annoyed by the adverts in the admin area, though, right? We've all had those adverts interrupting our existence in the admin area, and that's annoyed just about everybody. And I suppose that's one end of a spectrum of these things.
Yeah.
But documentation, honestly, if it leads to useful content, let people make their own mind up if they want to spend their money. I think that's what I think, right? Okay. Do we all agree that's what I think? Good.
I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter whether I'm right or not. It's just that's what I think. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Right, plugins, themes, and blocks. There were a couple of things here, but I won't mention them. Sort of interesting article, the end of themes. I don't think so, but maybe no minimum PHP version. So we talked about this a little bit previously. We were hopefully going to get a bump up, but it's not happening anymore. There is no bump, at least in the foreseeable future. So let's just crack on quickly. What have we got? Let's just open up some of these. Right, this was the first one. Justin is the big fan of the block patterns, as am I. I think the whole block pattern thing is going to be very exciting. And in this piece called Exploring the First Block Patterns to Land in the WordPress Theme Directory, guess what he does? He does exactly that. He talks about the theme, the things that have been, well, let's say there's not many of them. There's only about 5 themes in the entire directory, apparently, which have shipped with block patterns. But what he's trying to do, and I think this is his role, right? His job at WP Tavern is to do that, is to surface the good stuff. And so he's found a few themes which do it really well. I think we're just going to keep coming back to this one. I'm guessing at some point people like GiveWP will be looking into this kind of thing, even though you don't, you know, not necessarily into themes, but block patterns for all the complicated stuff that you do. Just, this is sublimely interesting to me. And Justin, yeah, seems to be very bullish about it as well. You started using block patterns this week, didn't you, Lacey?
I did, yeah. And I think we featured a plugin just the other day by somebody called, actually, I don't know who created this plugin, but it's Reusable Blocks Extended. And it allows you to convert your reusable blocks to patterns, which was really useful for a particular client project I was working on. The way the patterns work was great, and the only thing, it probably needs some work on how you can stop having to scroll through all the patterns every time you want to choose one of your patterns. So it would be nice to have some new user interface on there where you can put your favorite patterns at the top, for instance. Pretty much the same way. I mean, I think that they'll do that because the blocks, when you choose a block, obviously the more times you use a block, it ends up coming up right at the top when you click a new block every time. So it'd be nice if the patterns did that, because every time I was loading the patterns, it seemed to take quite a while for the patterns to load in. Especially, I don't know if some of the images are coming from remotely or something. I'm not sure, but it was a really nice experience to create a set of block patterns very quickly for my client and to have them very safely creating pages and not breaking pages.
The UI that they've got at the moment shows like basically a thumbnail image, like a letterbox, I don't know, 14:9 or something image of what the block pattern looks like. And you're right, it's big, it's really big, and they're one beneath another. So I'm used to things like a page builder where there's just a simple icon, which just, you know, with a very small icon demonstrates the general idea of what that, if you like, block pattern is. And you can have two of those side by side, and then Breezy and other ones have got three side by side, and they're even smaller. And you're right, if you had 50 or 60 of these, which I can see themes shipping with 50 or 60, you'll be scrolling for a very long time to get to surface the one that you want. Maybe, I don't know what the solution is, but shrinking the thumbnails.
I mean, that's one thing I've got real confidence in now, is that whether the core team solve it or someone like the person who created this reusable plugin, or the Tom Osborns and stuff like that, someone will create the functionality that solves the clear problems that anyone is using who's jumped in on block patterns will be facing. Like, this is irritating, and someone will solve that.
Yeah, I've used a few of these block packs. Like Paul and I were talking the other day about Stackable, and I downloaded that. And when you can click a button and they just take over the UI. There's a big modal that pops up and uses up 90%. There's a little border around the edge where you can clearly see WordPress admin sort of slightly in the background, and then you've got basically the whole screen to pick your block pattern. But they seem to want to lock everything down in that little section on the left hand side, and maybe they need to jump out of the constraints of that because it's maybe a little bit too narrow for that job. Anyway, we'll see.
I definitely recommend checking out this plugin though. This let me just check what it's called again. It's called
Reusable Blocks
Extended.
Yeah,
and it's by Jean-Baptiste Audras. And it was such a super useful plugin this week to create these block patterns from reusable blocks. Because the difference is the reusable blocks, you drag them in and they're kind of global. So you've got to release them from being global until you can mess with them. But then just dragging the block patterns in was wonderful. And it also automatically took a screenshot somehow of the reusable block layout that I converted to a block pattern. So I was really impressed with that. It was lovely.
Nice. I'm going to miss a few bits out because we are fairly short of time, and I want to hop to this one. I don't know if anybody caught sight of this one. This is so WPMU Dev. Maybe like 2 years ago, they just binned all the plugins which they've had. They had 50, 60 or something, and they've got it down to about, I'm going to say 9, something like that. And one of them is well, it's not really a plugin. They have this thing called the Hub, and if you install WPMU Dev's Hub, it allows their, well, what feels like a SaaS app to interact with your site. And so think of it a bit like Manage WP or Main WP. So you can log into WPMU Dev's hub, and any connected site, you can update plugins, you can see what, just do all that normal stuff, right? But this week, slightly left field, because I'm trying to work out what the angle is here. If you're a subscriber, you can download version 1 of this thing called the Hub client, and it allows you to completely white label that whole experience. So the Hub, WPMU Dev's pride and joy, if you like, you can white label it and then kind of have it as a service that at some point in the future you can sell to clients. So you can sell the whole like Hub experience to clients. I downloaded it just because I was curious, but it's very, very basic at the minute. It's like alpha, maybe even. It just doesn't have any of that normal WPMU Dev cartoonish branding. There's very few menu items, but I just thought this is really interesting. If you like WPMU Dev stuff and you like their hub and you think it's effective and it works, the idea that you could sell that whole hub experience, but then again, I don't know who the audience for that is. Weird. Over to you.
I can't see the angle as well, because the hub is like managed WP, like hosted, and then this is now like a main WP self-hosted.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're just moving in that direction because it's costing them a lot of money to run the hub on their server. I don't know.
The thing is, it's totally free. If you pay them the $49 a month, it's free, right? So, but I just can't see if you've got a website business and you want to. Surely you'd want to kind of like keep that to yourself. You'd want to be updating your client sites for them as part of your care package, not necessarily selling that service off. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people want to literally
main WP versus managed WP and versus the hub. Main WP has got lots of third-party integrations because it's self-hosted. So It means that Updraft Plus or any of these different plugins or Securi or WordFence can create add-ons that work with it. But with managed WP and the current hub that is hosted, it's a closed environment. So maybe it's a move towards them opening it up to get these third-party integrations done, so that it's more akin to main WP than managed WP. That's the main. I can't see the point of it like being something you'd resell. I know some people will try. I know of people that will try to stick some dollars on anything, and white label things. But I think that's the general direction. But
I think it's less about the white label and more about the self-hosted stuff, because it's becoming more and more concerned with privacy issues and stuff like that. And I'm not sure how tight it is integrating their own services. So how much you need to them to run stuff to be able to do stuff. But it's as WordPress gets bigger and bigger, they're getting more and more people who might need kind of stuff like that. And if it's just to have their branding for their employees or whatever.
Yeah, it just strikes me that if you were a WordPress developer and some marketer came up to you and said, look, I've got this product, it's like I'm going to sell you for $100 a month this software which will enable you to manage all of your clients. You'd take one look at it and go, well, that's WPMU Dev's hub, isn't it? You've just bought the what? Because it's not like, this is the industry we work in, right? We know this kind of stuff. Anyway, I don't know. Let's see.
Where becoming soon is basically where it's at, because WPMU have its hosting. It shows you here that, let's say you've got a client who has multiple sites or even one site, but I've got plenty of clients that have got multiple sites. They can buy marked up hosting through this hosted white label hub. So I could have 10 clients with 10 different hubs, and each of them can buy a new server. So they're like, oh, Paul, we need a new website. Okay, set up a new hosting thing on your panel, and I'll go in there and create the website on your panel, and you can charge whatever you want for the combination of the hub features like the security and those sort of things plus the hosting. So I think it's almost moving from just a panel, a hub panel, to something like a hybrid between a managed host where you can have multiple customers having their own logins and stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes. What doesn't make sense though is this. What's this?
Yeah,
We've got our first spam comment, but luckily it is a beautiful way of covering it. That is our first properly spam comment. Hey, this is nice though. I get to exercise the block user button in StreamYard. I wonder what that does. Even user was blocked. Let's see if that
Perfect.
Works. Yeah, isn't that cool? Delete comment. Yay! Wow, cool. Spam assassin. All right. Anyway, so that's a bit of a puzzle. I'm not entirely sure what that all means, but there we go. Deals for this week. Stackable. We mentioned last week. Stackable it's like a suite of blocks. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I downloaded it. I like it. I like these block packs. There's a Creebly one. Pixlr is like a cheap version of Photoshop that does like 50 billionth that Photoshop does, but it's online, which is quite nice. Not used it, but it's there. Did you, Michelle, use it?
I have, yes, I have used it a lot. Before I purchased my subscription to Photoshop, I was using Pixlr quite a bit, and I recommend it to other people who don't have the money to invest in Photoshop. It's a little clunky because it's online. You have to upload, download, and it's limited a little bit in what you can do, but it's perfectly fine for simple editing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's $50 on AppSumo. I don't know if you can pay more than that. They
had a free version for a while too. I don't know if that's still out there.
Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. It's new. You can get your
hands on it. Before it was a deal.
Yeah. So yeah. It's like me. I used to listen to Nirvana before they were famous.
Can I add it?
Oh yeah, please. In fact, can I just find the link? Because I know Bernard's got a few as well. Let me.
Yeah.
Is it in the private chat?
I haven't. No, it's just if you go to givewp.com.
Yep.
And you book a demo. If you're interested in seeing how it works, you book a demo with us, then you'll either speak to myself, Amanda, or Amy. Amy's behind me, Amanda's to the right of me. They're listening right now. At the end of that demo, we send you a coupon code for 25% off your first year of Give. But you have to book the demo. You have to sit through the demo with us so we can show you all the features of Give. But that's a little secret for your listeners.
Where do we go? What do we do? How do we book it? Where's the booking thing?
Click features, and then demos. View live. Click view live demo. Right there, you've got it right. Yep. And then there's a schedule a live demo button right there.
That's a nice technique. I like that. Get people to actually talk to you on. Yeah, that's.
Yep. So we get on a Zoom call with you. We do a full demonstration from our fake charity website that we created and show you how the users see it. We show you what the dashboard looks like, and we answer all of your questions.
Whilst we're on the whole, well, we should have done plugins a minute ago. Bernard, do you want me to do the pods one for you as well?
I can do it. You can do it. I don't care.
I've got the link that you sent me, but I don't know where it's going to end up. It's just
a screen recording. So the second one is a little bit more interesting, but it's just code. So as some of you might know, we're starting to getting closer to getting a properly working version of Pods 2.8. And one big part of it will be that you have, on the one hand, blocks for pods. So they are almost one in. And together with that, you can register your own blocks with a few lines of PHP code, and Pods deals with all the stuff itself. So you have the option to either have just JavaScript rendering or even make a PHP callback for devs or people who might need more stuff. And you can already try it. Just be aware that the settings and stuff isn't moved over to the new interface, but stuff like blocks already works.
Okay.
So you can build your own block, have your own fields to fill out, and while you fill out the fields, the preview is already rendered, like with any other block.
Is it ready-ish for prime time, or are we still a little way off? No.
I mean, the blocks part maybe, but the other parts of 2.8 aren't properly finished yet because the settings and the interface for doing new pods items isn't ready yet.
Okay.
But we're getting there. And so I thought it's interesting if you want to follow it.
Yeah.
Or test it.
Get yourself involved. There's a video here. I can link to these after the fact. There's a video, obviously. Is this you explaining, or is this Scott?
No, that's Scott, our lead dev, showing off what has done already with a little bit of comments and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you for mentioning that. Well, we are more or less out of time. Let me just click through here. Let's see if there's anything worthy of mentioning. We talked about this thing. No, we didn't. Google is going to start talking. They're going to start blocking insecure forms, which I think could be quite a good move on their part. I guess this is in Chrome. If you've got mixed content and things like that, Google are going to start throwing up warnings. That's helpful. Thank you very much, Search Engine Journal. You never fail to reward us with a pop-up for being on your site.
One of the things that makes me laugh the most about security is the term insecure versus unsecure. Insecure means you have self-doubt.
Yes. This form is...
Unsecure means that it is not a secure form. So this is they're talking about forms with self-doubt here.
Yeah. It's terribly worried about submitting the information correctly. I just thought that was quite nice. And having forms that are more secure, he said, trying to skirt the language problem there, is obviously a good thing. Oh my God, stop it. Search Engine Journal, away with you. This is quite interesting as well. I am really struggling to find the purpose in this. This came to my attention because of James Rose. He's got his agency Highway newsletter, and he picked this one up. Do something .new. So you can buy a .new domain, right? And there is a purpose. You have to fulfill an obligation to have a .new domain name, and that is it has to trigger an action. So let's say, for example, you go to, I don't know, docs.new. That will force your browser to begin a new Google Doc. If you go to, well, here's some examples. Look, you go to story.new, that's been bought by Medium, and it will create a new Medium post. Gist.new will do something in GitHub. Podcast.new, I was quite angry that had gone, I can tell you. Podcast.new allows you to create a new podcast episode on Anchor, which is a podcast episode network. What else did we have? Oh, and it may not be obvious here, but post.new has been bought by WordPress so that you can create a new post on WordPress.com. And the privilege for this super shortcut, $5,000, $5,000.
Wow. Don't go to hacked.new.
Yeah. Oh no. What's that? Yeah. That's such a great idea. Yeah. Bought by Anonymous. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought, what extraordinary. I mean, the world there's some companies with too much money if they're prepared to spend. Because when you just go to Bitly and then create new.
What's 5K in the grand scale of WordPress or I don't know, any big company that's, I don't know, 1 month of an employee.
Yeah,
sometimes even that's nothing.
I could have that 5,000. You see, if all of these companies decided to donate to the Nathan Wrigley Charity Foundation, by now I could be almost a millionaire, and everybody would still have to type in bitly.com or whatever it is, and then go to create, and it would be no hardship, frankly. Anyway, I just thought it was fascinating. What a weird world we live in, where people are prepared to spend that kind of money. Anyway, don't go out and buy a .new because it will cost you 5,000 quid. Is there anything else I want to mention? Probably not.
Look at Chris's comment.
Oh, sorry, I haven't been on the page. Hosting you has already. Which one?
No.
Which one? Does it say?
The world wants to know who purchased it.
Who purchased hosting.com? I'll bet it was. Oh, it wasn't GoDaddy.
No, he says it wasn't GoDaddy.
I wonder.
Hosterion, whatever Hosterion is.
I want to know if somebody types in Wrigley.new, if there's a duplicate of me created somewhere.
It gives you a
Nobody
haircut.
typed it.
Yeah, that's right. Just with no less hair. Haircut.new. Anyway, what a thing. Because to me, it's like you spend so much time figuring out how to get people to your actual website. Then it just feels like a bit of a mental hurdle to then try to teach them all. Well, actually, from now on, will you just type in podcast.new? Because that's a really nice little neat way. Just go to your website.
Who gets the money? Who's getting all this money?
Google.
Really?
Google bought the whole domain.
Huge waste of money.
I know.
This is.
I know,
can't. Wow.
Imagine somebody just thought, oh, okay, .new's available. Should we buy the whole lot? How much is it? 30 million, something like that. Yeah, all right. What should we do with it? Should we just sell the domain names? No, let's do something really edge case and weird. Yeah, evil. Hosterion.com. Ooh.
They're probably a parent company to somebody.
Yeah, that's right. Owned by GoDaddy, nonetheless. Right. So that's all we've got for you. Thank you for joining us once more. Really appreciate it. What I'm doing this week, I'm taking 2 days out to decorate. It is my absolute nemesis. There's nothing I hate more than decorating my own house. I really, really don't enjoy it. So I'm going to spend two days this week decorating, and I'm not going to enjoy any of it, and I shall be foul and grumpy at the weekend. Right. What about you, Bernhard?
Oh, nothing special. Just working on a few client projects. I don't know.
If you've got nothing special on, do you fancy coming around to my house and painting?
Let me think.
Yeah.
Maybe if you sweeten the deal, we can find that.
Oh.
But I have two left hands, so might not be the best idea to.
No. No. Paul, what about you? Anything exciting?
I was going to say, once the two of you have finished sorting out your house, maybe you could go over to Michelle's office and straighten up that picture on the wall.
That thing weighs so much. We have to have somebody come in and actually put bolts in the wall to fix it. So
roast.
Yeah, it's all wonky. It's like this.
It is. I agree. It's the bane of my existence. That's why it's to my back.
What you don't realize, Paul, is the picture is actually straight and the entire office is on a
No, that's intentional because there are parts you don't see which counterweights it.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Bernhard. Saved the day. That's actually not true.
What about you, though, Michelle? Apart from straightening up that picture, which is clearly priority number one, what are you doing?
I recently built my first plugin by reverse engineering Hello Dolly, and it's called Hello Beautiful. And it's every time you log into your WordPress website, it gives you positive affirmation, like you're the best web designer I've ever met, things like that. And I only did it so that I could have an understanding of what development looks like and how different parts of it work at a very, very surface level. I understand. So I'm actually writing an article this week on that process and what I learned from it and how I have a better understanding of development because I took a shallow dive into it.
How nice. That's really cool. Well, that is nice. And I'm now going to go and write the Hello Underwear equivalent. She's just going to show pictures of random underwear when you log in, because now we know that's in fact the most important thing.
Paul is your first. Paul is your first customer. He'll buy.
Yeah, it's premium. It's a premium offering.
I'm going to go and save up my money and go and buy underwear.new.
Does it changes your underwear for you?
Exactly. Exactly.
I'll spend 5,000 on that.
But actually, you can also get the half price one, which just makes your underwear get turned inside out.
So we found it's not away now. It's
still available.
See, the thing is, Joe Boxer should buy that, and every time you do it, you order the next set to be sent to your house. So
you see, we've already uncovered the gold that Google have missed out on. Underwear.new. It's clearly.
No, I should head for chocolate.new.
Yeah, yes. Because chocolate, once the fridge gets like 2/3 of the chocolate supply is gone, you are already thinking about where's the next bar coming from, aren't you? Exactly. You could have it. You could have the order form pre-filled. Cookie that thing.
Yeah,
right.
Go to Bernhard's website and order you some nice hot chocolate.
I feel that this is run
together with hot underwear, especially for Nathan.
It hasn't run its course. This is just going to go on. I'm going to go now, and I'll leave you guys. I'll leave you three talking about underwear and so on. No, in all seriousness, thank you so much. I very, very much appreciate it. It's very kind of you to come on and make me.
It's always a pleasure.
I'm going to press stop. If you three want to just stick around for a little chin wag afterwards, that's great. I'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for your comments. I didn't put a lot of them up, but thank you anyway for your comments. Appreciate it. Bye.